Okay, we're going to try something together today, and we may or may not be successful with this. But years ago, I was taught a card effect that seems to be able to identify certain sorts of people depending on the outcome of the effect. And in particular, what this can show is whether or not you stand out from the crowd. So, when you're in a big group of people, would you be easy to spot? Would you be easy to say, oh, wow, that person's pretty different than everyone else, whether it be your height, you're 6'9", or maybe the color of your hair or your clothing, or there's maybe even just something special about you that, you kind of a glow to you. So let's test. Let's test to see whether or not you are such a person. Do you stand out in the crowd? Or do you kind of mix in like I do? I don't seem to stand out anywhere I go. So what we're going to do is we need a number of cards to help us with this test to see if indeed you do kind of have that special something that helps you stand out in any crowd that you find yourself in. So I'm going to just deal a number of cards to the table until you tell me to stop. Stop? Okay, you want me to put this one down or not? Okay, you don't want this one. Okay, so stop one before, that's just fine. So that's given us, I think this is enough cards to kind of do what we need to do here. So I'm going to give this a mix, just so that neither one of us, or anyone really, could know where the cards are or their order. Okay? And now what I need you to do is I need you to kind of use your intuition to choose two consecutive cards. Okay? So these cards are going to kind of start out together, right? They're going to start right next to each other, actually. Okay? So if I can have you point to anywhere in the spread here for two consecutive cards. Okay, you want these two? Are you sure? Okay, so take a look. I'm actually not looking at them, I'm looking away. So you got them? Okay, so I'll put them back actually where they came from. But in some ways that won't matter too much because I'm going to turn around and mix them up. And we're going to mix the cards quite a bit. But those are the two cards. You can view those as kind of your avatars, I guess. We're going to see if you indeed stand out in any crowd that you find yourself in. Okay, so we've done quite a bit of mixing there. We're going to do some additional mix. In fact, we're going to be doing a lot of mixing here. So we'll mix into 4 piles. Okay, so this, we have no idea, quote, where you are meaning your cards. No idea. So why don't we mix this further by maybe leapfrogging over that one, and would you like this one on top of that one or this one on top? You want this one, the right one on top of that one? Okay, so what that's done is it's brought us to a couple of piles. In fact, we can actually mix these as well, and if you were here, I would actually, well, maybe let's just go ahead and do that, I guess. I'll try to table wash in the way that you would have. You would have table washed exactly like that, right? That was a joke, right? So maybe you would do this kind of thing. You mix them up and all over the place. Okay, very good. Why don't you gather them? Okay, well, these cards are really beyond the knowledge of any of us in terms of order and where those two cards are. I have no idea which pile you're in and where you are relative to each other, actually. So now what we're going to do, a final little mixing procedure, I'm going to pick up one of these and flip it over, and then we're going to shuffle those two packets together, actually. So which one do you want me to pick up so that I can flip it? This one or you want this one? Okay, I'll flip that one. Very good. Like that. And then I'm going to pick up this one. Now what we're going to do, because it does such a good job just kind of mixing things, is And you can do this as well. You don't have to be perfect at it. In fact, hopefully it's, yeah, see, that's good. I seem to have the problem of doing perfect Pharaoh shuffles. That one's not, right? You can see that that's not perfect, which is great. So just kind of mix them in that way so that, you know, they're interlaced, you know, reasonably well, and then just bring those together, okay? Now, we're to the final stage of our test here. So to really determine whether you are, in fact, maybe from birth, a person who stands out in any crowd that they're in, the cards will reveal that to us. And sometimes it's hard to explain how they'll do it, but it becomes clear once we look at the cards. We go, oh, okay, you are, or maybe you are not, one who stands out from the crowd. So let me just go ahead and show the cards. Oh, by the way, do you happen to see one of your cards here? Queen of Hearts is one of your cards. You're kidding me. Okay, what about your second card? It's got to be probably one of these. You don't see it? So it must be on the other side. Well, to begin with here, I would say that Queen of Hearts definitely stands out from the rest. So you're kind of halfway home for succeeding at this test. Let's see if we can find your card. Which card is yours? That one? You've got to be kidding me. It's the only black card among all of these red. I think you've passed the test with flying colors. You are certainly one who stands out in any crowd in which you find yourself. Congratulations. Now, I don't know if you're happy that that's the case, but sorry, whether you like it or not, you are one who stands out from the crowd. Okay, so let's look at this card effect. It's a fun one. At the heart of it, it is mathematical. I mean, in a number of different ways, actually. It's mathematical. Okay, so, and there's a number of ways of actually framing it and actually performing it as well, okay? And there's an impromptu way where you don't have to do any setup, or you can set things up ahead of time. It's really up to you. Now, let me just explain the way that I chose to set it up, which wasn't quite impromptu, but then I'll show you how to do it impromptu, because I quite honestly, in practice, I prefer card effects where there's no setup. Right? There's no setup at all. I don't know if that's because I'm a lazy person by nature or what, but I just prefer ones where somebody, sorry, I'm just collecting all the blacks over here. Somebody can hand me a truly randomly mixed deck of cards, and I'm able to, you know, hopefully able to do something surprising with those cards, okay? And it's nice when it's their deck because they feel like, okay, this is my deck. I've had it for years. He hasn't seen it before. He didn't have a chance to fiddle with it and set up something special. Okay, so this is the preparation I did, which you could do this if you wanted to. So I had all of the blacks on one side of the deck and all of the reds on the other. Okay, and then just think back to what I did. I started with the Klondike Shuffle. Now, you would not need to use the Klondike Shuffle. Let me just assure you of that, because you know some people don't feel comfortable with the mechanics of that, and that's fine. You would not have to do this, so just be aware of that. So just think about what this is doing. I'm taking a red one from the bottom and a black one from the top. And then, you know, you want a decent number of cards. So you just kind of begin to do this. And then at some point you give the spectator the chance to say stop, you know, wherever they would like. So maybe right there. That's perfect. Okay, well, just think about what kind of packet structure would I have here if I haven't, you know, made any mistakes with that. Well, will it not be alternating in color? So black, red, black, red, black, red all the way through. Okay, and we call this a cyclic construction or a cyclic packet. So this is what we call a cyclic packet where the cycle length is 2. So you have something repeating twice, namely color. Black, red, black, red, black, red, repeating quite a few times. Okay. Well, when it comes to cyclic constructions like this, the Charlier shuffle, which is what this is, and I have a separate video on the Charlier shuffle, so you may want to look into that. You can always just cut the cards because it ends up that this crazy Charlier shuffle is equivalent to a single cutting of the cards. So what I'm doing here is I'm pushing off a certain number from the top, and then from the bottom I'm pushing a certain number and then depositing them on top, and then from this top I put some of those at the bottom, and then from the bottom I drop some on top, and then top to bottom. So that's the Charlier shuffle. So you may want to watch that video. It's called the Charlier shuffle because it's a powerful shuffle because it retains really the relative order of all of the cards. Okay. So anyway, that's a way to give the impression that the cards are being, quite thoroughly mixed. Well, but they really aren't, because if you look at it, it's still an alternating packet. Now, it could be that it does this, right? It could be that the top card's now red, but it's still alternating in color. Now it's red, black, and so forth. Okay, so you need that kind of packet structure for this effect. Okay, and so from there, what I asked you to do is just point to 2 consecutive cards. Okay, so maybe you point to these 2 right here. You point to those. Now you have to watch very carefully what I did, and you may have caught it in the actual video because I'm not sure if I did it all that subtly. So focus on the fact that this card on the left is above the one on the right. Okay, so what you do is you separate them. So left is above, right is below. Separate them, without making a big deal of it. And then you're showing these to the spectator for them to remember. And then what you do is you just very nonchalantly reverse the order. They were in this order. You just put them like that, and then you make a big deal about the fact that you're putting them back exactly where they were. Well, as a pair you are, but not within the pair, so I guess that's a little fib. The kind of thing you would expect in any kind of, potentially in any kind of magic performance. Okay, now from this point you can actually do some Charlier shuffles. Because the fact that those 2 cards are neighbors in the way that they are will not be undermined in the least by a Charlier shuffle. But boy, does it give the impression that the cards are mixed. And they are mixed in the sense of no one knowing specifically where the cards are. I cannot tell you what the top card is or bottom or anything. All I know is that most of the cards here alternate in color, except for, and I guess I kind of forgot to make a big deal of that, so maybe I'm going to set this down just to show you a point that hopefully you caught on your own. But these cards will be alternating except for the 2 cards that you pulled out and looked at. Okay, so let me just quickly kind of show you that. And we won't spend much time on this because I think it's probably understood already for most of you. But so here we have we have an alternating structure here. So essentially what I did was, let's say I kind of held those out for you to remember, but secretly they got reversed, right? And so now that alternating structure is not perfect. If we had more cards, it would be red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black, and then black again. and then red, red again, and then black, red, you know, it might alternate over here further, okay? So what it does is it puts those two cards out of sync with their natural alternating partners, right? Because all of the reds were related in that they were one card away from each other, or you know, odd number of cards away from each other, and the evens the same thing. Okay, so they were alternating before, okay, and now by doing this, you've broken that pattern, but just for those two cards, okay? So in particular, think about this. If we were to flip over every other card right now, like just flip them over, what would happen? Well, maybe we should back up just a moment. What happens when we have an alternating structure like this, and we do flip over every other card? So this one gets flipped, this one gets flipped, this one gets flipped, and so forth if there's more red. Well, what will happen if it was truly alternating throughout is all of the reds would be facing one way and all of the blacks the opposite way, okay? So that's what would happen if we hadn't broken the pattern, right? But when I showed you your two cards, these two cards, I secretly reversed their order. Well, now what happens? If we flip every other card, I'm just flipping every other card, you know, ignore the colors for a moment. I'm flipping every other card that truly is down, up, down, up, down, up. Well, you can see what happened. That one card of yours, the red one, stands out like a sore thumb. It's certainly standing out from the crowd. And the other card that you saw, which is the two of clubs, also stands out. So all of the other up-facing cards would be red, and just your one black card, and then all of the up-facing cards here would be black, except for your one red card that's facing up as well. Okay? So I just wanted to kind of clarify that switching the order of your consecutive cards kind of puts them out of sync with the other, with the larger alternating pattern there. Okay, and that relationship is not harmed by this crazy Charlier shuffle. Once again, you could just cut the cards, and maybe that will convince the spectator just fine. Maybe you don't have to take the time to learn the Charlier shuffle, though I think it's worth your time if you're going to do any card magic. Okay, and now what we did next was I put them out into 4 piles. So just think this through, okay? So like, let's say this one, let's say that they were all alternating perfectly again, right? Like at the beginning, before we reverse the order of your cards. So maybe this one's red, black, 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 okay? So if you notice in my repeating of those two colors, this pile was always red that I'd be setting down, black, red, black. And if it were a perfectly alternating packet, that would be the case. All of these would be of one color. This one would be of the opposite color. This one would be opposite color to that one. This one would be the opposite color to that one, okay? So if you recall, what I did was I took this, I did kind of a leapfrog thing. I took this one and put it on top of that one. Well, really all I'm doing is combining cards of the same color. If it were, all alternating in color at the beginning, the same thing here. Like if these would both be red, let's say, and then these would have to be black piles, okay? So I went like that, and then I went like this, okay? So if they had all been alternating, it would have been a simple situation of all of these would be of one color, and the other one would be of the opposite color. But because we reversed the order of the two cards that you noted, your card in here will be the opposite to the color of the surrounding cards, the other cards in the packet. And the other card that you saw and noted would be the opposite color to all of the other cards in this little half, okay? And then when we did this, okay, decide which one to flip for kind of a feral shuffle. It's going to now end up that all cards of the same color will be facing one way, except for one of the cards, namely one of yours. And then on the other side, all of the cards will be of the opposite color, except for that second one that you noted and whose order got switched by me in a very sneaky fashion early on. Okay? And then, I closed it up. And then all we did here is just explain, well, let's finish our test to see if you are one of these people who just stands out in any crowd, And we went like this. And here is the black card that you noted. And boy, does it stand out in that crowd of red cards. And then on the other side, we'll locate your second noted card. And it's going to stand out just as much. There it is, the two of hearts. Okay? Now, one little subtlety I want to mention to you is, and if you can come up with a different way of accomplishing this that you're more comfortable with, that would be great. It has to do with the feral shuffle that I used, and I kind of encourage you to use. So let me just let's go ahead and kind of set it up somewhat alternating again. But it doesn't really have to even be perfect for what I'm going to try to explain here. But and you may want to think through, why did I use that kind of feral shuffle? Did it help hide something? That's the key question right there. Did it help hide something? Okay, so we had this little packet here like that, and then maybe these two cards were switched, right? Those are your special cards that you noted. Well, when you go through and kind of separate them by colors, almost by colors, except for your cards, most of them. So let's eventually. Okay, let's say we put them into 4, and then I leapfrog and stack those, and then we eventually get down to 2 piles where in each pile the cards are all of the same color except for your one card. And then the same thing for the other half, right? Your one card will certainly stand out. Well, see, the challenge here is that all of these will be the same color except for yours. And all of these will be the same color except for that one that you saw, 4 of hearts. Okay? So if you can think of another way of mixing these without kind of letting the cat out of the bag, because we want to mix them face up and face down, well, you can't really do a riffle shuffle without them seeing. You can't really do a rosette shuffle very easily, right? Because, they'll spot that most of these are black, right, as you bring these together. So anyway, that was the reason that I recommended the feral shuffle, because it's kind of a sneaky way to keep the identity of those cards hidden from view, right? Because at any point, the only faces you see are the faces on the bottom of the packet. And so that's why I recommended that you do, and it doesn't have to be perfect. That one's like far from perfect, which makes it kind of nice in some ways. And then you just bring those together, and then you don't give any hints as to, okay, now what's going on, and give any information that would allow them to discover the method. Like, oh, I know how you did it, and you must have done such and such. And now you're all set up to reveal that their cards stand out clearly from the others, and that's evidence that they are a person who stands out from any crowd that they're in. So anyway, that's standing out from the crowd. It's a very fun effect. It gets a great reaction. I would say that it's not one that you would be safe doing over and over to the same spectator, because they're going to be looking carefully at every step. And so the one thing they'll probably catch eventually is that when they pointed to 2 consecutive cards and then you kind of pulled them apart, the reason for doing this is information's lost. It's like, oh, no, wait, let me think. Is this one on top or bottom? Now, you need to remember what it looks like when it's reversed. Right? This was on top. Now it needs to be on the bottom. But once you separate them, it's like, oh, ooh, okay, how did that work? Which one was first? Okay? And if you do this effect multiple times, they're probably going to catch on to the fact that it was like this, but when you put it back, it was like this. And then your cover's kind of blown at that point. So, oh, and then one last thing, very important actually, so I'm hoping that you're still sticking around here. I mentioned that there's a way to do it impromptu, and this is the way I prefer to do it, because you know, it's a bunch of work actually to collect all of the red on one side of the deck and all of the black on the other. Sorry, this is a brand new deck. I just barely opened up, so it's kind of stiff when it comes to about everything, shuffling in particular. Okay, so how would you do this impromptu? And this is a technique that can be used in lots of different situations, by the way, so it's a valuable one to know. Well, what you do is you just take, ask for the random deck of cards. They can be mixed thoroughly. And then you go through and you look at them. And what you can claim is that certain cards are more psychic than others, or that for this specific test of standing out from the crowd, some cards have just proven to not be very consistent in helping you determine that. So what you can do is you go through, these are facing you, not the spectator's not seeing this, just you. And so you kind of go through these, and what you're looking for is maintaining of a alternating structure. So I have red, black, red. Well, this silly 2 here is in the way, right? So the way to kind of get things back on track is to claim that, oh, that's a garbage card. You toss it aside, face down, say, oh, that one's no good. That's not going to help us here. Now look at this, look at this. So I need just 1 black after the 4 of diamonds. So look, I have a whole group of black that I don't want, right? So what I can do is go, oh man, none of these are good at all. You just toss them down with a little bit of impatience or something. It's all pretend. Now we have it alternating. Oh, that silly 10's in the way. You don't say it's a 10, but you say, oh, that one's no good. Is this one? No, I don't feel good about that one either. So if you can see, what I'm doing is I'm building an alternating packet. And I probably have enough now. Now you do have to note the color. Remember, I started with a red, so I need to stop with a black for it to be truly alternating, right? It needs to be an even number of cards. And then these discard cards can just be set aside. And so what you've done is you've created an alternating structure impromptu. They have no idea why you were discarding certain cards. They have no idea that this was needed and that this is what you were doing. No clue. It just looks like, well, I guess some cards are just kind of reject cards or something. And so what you've done is, from a random deck of cards that has been mixed by the spectator, you have been able to create a perfectly alternating packet of, here it's red, black, of whatever length you like, okay? And so you would just go through and, you know, go through the whole performance again, have them choose two, and then kind of separate them, put them back opposite order. You're all set. Put them in, you know, and then you can do a Charlier, of course, a Charlier, and then put them out into 4 piles, and then put pile 1 on pile 3, and then 2 on 4 or 4 on 2, and then flip either one, and then do that like Farrell shuffle mixing, and show that their cards do stand out. They'll be the only one of the opposite color to all of the cards around them. So anyway, that's standing out from the crowd, where it is done with a random deck of cards. There's no setup needed, but if you'd like to set it up in a way that I did, you know, that works as well. So thank you for watching.